Hi boys and girls, I'm here in Missouri at the St. Louis Arch. I'm also going to be reading the book My United States, Missouri by Jennifer Zeger. Ready? Kind of exciting. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1, Land and Wildlife. Living in the heart of the Midwest, Missouri is a state with a little bit of everything. Its landscape is diverse, from flat plains to high mountains, from dense forests to deep caves. Animals of every kind scurry, climb, and fly across the strait. Different regions are home to a range of accents, southern drawls, western twangs, and the unique vowel sounds of the East. There's even more than one way to say the state's name. Some people call it Missouri, others say Missouri. A look at the land. Missouri has 4 basic regions. Glaciers are flattened in the northern plains thousands of years ago. Farther south are the rolling hills of the Osage Plains. The Ozark Plateau dominates the rest of southern Missouri. Ancient mountains rise here. Below them are many of Missouri's countless caves. In the southern boot hill of the state, down here, is the Mississippi lowland, which contains some of the state's best farmland. The Boot Hill is a part of the New Madrid Fault Zone, the center of rare but powerful earthquakes. Merrimack Caves. Deep below the Ozark Plateau lies Merrimack Caverns, one of the largest cave systems. It includes 4.6 miles of winding passageways and beautiful rock formations. This cave system has proven useful throughout history. Native Americans used it as shelter during dangerous weather. Later, it was a hideout for the infamous outlaw Jesse James. Merrimack Caverns is also a source of saltpeter, the main ingredient for gunpowder. Saltpeter was so important during the Civil War that people fought and died for control of the caverns. Land of rivers. Missouri is home to the largest river system in the United States. This is most likely thanks to 2 major rivers. The mighty Mississippi is the country's second longest river. It forms the state's eastern border. The Missouri River, or Big Muddy, cuts across the middle of the state. The waterway is massive. At the point where the Missouri River joins the Mississippi is just north of St. Louis. It doubles as the Mississippi River's flow. Weather extremes. Missouri's weather goes from one extreme to the other. Summers are hot and humid. During heat waves, temperatures can exceed 100 degrees. Winter temperatures can often dip below freezing. Snow is heaviest in the north. In spring, ferocious tornadoes can form. In 2011, a tornado touched down in Joplin, killed more than 150 people, and injured many others. It was the country's deadliest tornado in 64 years. Plentiful Plants. Missouri was once covered in grasslands to the west and north and forests to the east and south. As more people settled in the area, building towns and creating farmland, much of the forest disappeared. Today, roughly 1/3 of the state is forest. Most of this forest land is located in the Ozark Plateau region. Amazing animals. A wide variety of animals live in Missouri. The stag cry of mourning doves can be heard across the state. So can the calls of ducks, geese, and other migrating birds. Bobcats stalk prey in the forest. Mountain lions and black bears can be spotted nearly everywhere. Raccoons and squirrels are at home both in the wild and in towns. One unique animal of the Ozark is the Ozark hellbender. This fierce-sounding salamander is only found in Missouri and Arkansas. It's right here. Government. Jefferson City was named the state capital in 1821, the year Missouri became a state. However, the city did not really exist yet. It took about 5 years of construction before government officials could move in. The current capital was completed in 1924 after 2 previous buildings had burned down. Its builders used only materials from Missouri. The capital is home to many pieces of local art, including a giant mural titled A Social History of the State of Missouri. Managing Mississippi. Not Mississippi. Missouri's government has 3 branches. The House of Representatives and the Senate make up the legislative branch. They write and revise laws. The judicial branch consists of Missouri's courts. The governor and other members of the executive branch enforce the law. They also manage other state issues such as education, prison, and transportation systems. It's not easy to become a judge in Missouri's higher courts. When there's a vacancy, a special commission or group searches for someone to fill it. If they find the three best possible candidates, the governor chooses one of the three to become a judge. Then, after 1 year, people vote on whether they want the judge to stay. This system is called the Missouri Plan. Missouri created it, but other states have since adopted it. Missouri and the national government. Each state elects officials to represent in U.S. Congress, like every state. Missouri has 2 senators. The U.S. House of Representatives relies on the state's population to determine its numbers. Missouri has 8 representatives in the House. Every 4 years, states vote on the next U.S. president. Each state is granted a number of electoral votes based on its number of members in Congress. With 2 state senators and 8 representatives, Missouri has 10 electoral votes. What represents Missouri? This is the state seal right here. It has a bear, a moon, an eagle, 2 bears on the side. Here's the flag with the symbol in the middle. The state bird is a bluebird. The state tree is the eastern black walnut. The state insect is the honeybee. Flowering dogwood is a state tree. The Missouri mule is the state animal, and the fiddle is the state musical instrument. Missouri is an ancient land. Experts estimate that people have lived in the area since about 9,000 BC. The first cultures to arrive included the Clovis and Folsom peoples. They hunted prehistoric animals such as mammoths and species of bison that is now extinct. They traveled from place to place as they followed the animal herds as they relied on for food. Their weapons and tools, from spear tips to hammers, were made of bone and stone. The Mississippi culture started developing in the area about 700 CE. Unlike the hunter-gatherer ancestors, the Mississippian people, and CE stands for current era, the Mississippian people settled in permanent villages and grew crops such as corn. These people were extremely successful. They had towns and trade routes across much of what is much now the United States. Among artifacts they left behind are giant mounds of earth. The mounds served as ceremonial sites and burial grounds. Many of them can be seen along the Mississippi River. Later cultures. Other cultures later came to what is now Missouri. To the north, the largest group was the Missouri people, from whom the state is named. They and other nearby groups hunted buffalo, following the animal herds as they migrated. People also grew corn, beans, and squash. The Osage was a powerful nation in and around the Ozarks. Like their neighbors to the north, the Osage hunted for part of the year and grew crops during the rest of it. European exploration. Spanish explorers entered what is now southwestern Missouri in the 1540s, but the visit was brief. No Europeans claimed ownership of the land until 1682. That year, René Robert Calvert Sieur de La Salle claimed the land around the Mississippi River for France and named it Louisiana. The first French settlers in Missouri were traders and missionaries. Later, miners came to dig up lead found in the region. The work was hard, and many brought slaves in order to do the labor. New settlers. The first permanent European settlement in Missouri was in San Genevieve in 1735. It was built near a lead mine. Then came St. Louis, which started as a trading post in 1764. That's where we are. At the same time, Native Americans from Virginia, Georgia, and other southeastern states also moved into Missouri. They had been forced out of their homes by white American settlers taking over the land. White Americans came to Missouri too. Some of them also brought slaves. New owners. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson completed the Louisiana Purchase. This land deal made France's Louisiana territory, including what is now Missouri, Missouri American. Afterward, Missouri's population boomed. Over the next decade, many people came to the area. Before long, Missouri was looking to become a state, but the territory was entering the Union at a time of fiery conflict. Missouri became a state in 1821. It only happened as part of a compromise that Missouri, a slave state, and Maine, another new state, free. At the time, there was a strong conflict between the slave states and the free states. The Civil War broke out in 1861 when several southern states left the Union to form the pro-slavery Confederacy. Though a slave state, Missouri stayed with the Union. Conflict abroad, conflict at home. Missouri worked to rebuild and grow after the Civil War. Then the United States joined Great Britain, France, and other allies in World War I and World War II. Many Missourians fought while others worked in factories. In 2014, Ferguson, a town outside St. Louis, was the center of a series of protests. The killing of an unarmed black teenager by a white police officer sparked demonstrations across the country against police brutality and racism. Dred Scott and the Case for Freedom. Dred Scott was born into slavery in Virginia about 1799. In the 1830s, Scott spent several years with his owner in Illinois, a free state, and Wisconsin, a free territory. In 1848, he was living in Missouri, which was still a slave state. There, Scott sued his owner for his freedom. Because Scott had lived in free areas, his lawyers argued he should be free. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, but he lost. The court ruled that he would remain a slave no matter where he traveled. It also ruled that slaves had no rights as U.S. citizens. Scott finally gained his freedom in 1857, but his court case had gone down in history as one of the most controversial decisions made by the Supreme Court. This is wax figures, it's not actually a photo. Culture. At the crossroads of many regions, Missouri has a blend of diverse cultures. This is shown in its music. Country music can be heard in Branson and other southern towns. Kansas City and St. Louis are centers for blues and jazz. Missouri was also home to ragtime's great composer Scott Joplin. In the Ozarks, people enjoy the fiddle and banjo of bluegrass music, which is first developed in the Appalachian Mountains to the east. Fun and games. Fans of team sports are rarely bored in Missouri. Depending on where they live, baseball buffs root for Kansas City Royals or the St. Louis Cardinals. In fact, football fans flock to Kansas City to watch the Chiefs. In winter, the St. Louis Blues hockey team dominates the fans' attention. There's a lot to do outside too. Hunters, hikers, and boaters enjoy the state's wilderness area. There are also plenty of caves to explore. Missouri has festivals and events to suit every interest. Art lovers can visit St. Louis for the city's annual art fair. Balloon enthusiasts can head to Brookfield for the longest running balloon festival in the country. And if you've ever wanted to try your hand at competitive fence painting, head to Hannibal's Tom Sawyer Days. Events here celebrate stories and characters of our author Mark Twain. Making money. Most Missourians work in manufacturing or service jobs. Airplanes, cars, and other transportation equipment are top products. The service industry includes teachers, doctors, restaurant employees, and others who provide a service rather than a product. Agriculture is also important. Crops such as soybeans, hay, corn are grown throughout the state. Missouri has long been a transportation center. People and products have traveled along the Missouri and Mississippi River for centuries. Pioneers passed through the state on their way west in the 1800s. Later, railroads and highways brought businesses and tourists through. Planes added another method of travel in the 20th century. No matter how they traveled, people passing through Missouri have needed many of the same things. Missourians sell supplies, souvenirs, and other products. Hotels provide places to stay, and restaurants and supermarkets provide food. All of their businesses create jobs for the state's residents. Tiny tidbits. Catfish is a popular dish in Missouri. Fishers catch them wild from the state's many lakes and rivers. Visit St. Louis for the plate of fried ravioli, which you dip in marinara sauce and eat with your hands. Head to West Kansas for molasses sweet barbecue. For dessert, try thick frozen custard or an ice cream cone, and a treat that was first introduced in Missouri. There is so much to enjoy about Missouri. Nature lovers have mountains, caverns, mighty rivers, and quiet lakes. Sports fans can root for their home teams all year long. Music enthusiasts can enjoy anything from bluegrass, fiddle, to ragtime, piano. Foodies have a range of dishes to choose from, and there's so much more. Whether you're a first-time visitor or a lifelong resident, the Show Me State has something certainly to offer you. I miss you. I love you. I'm going to take a few more pictures around St. Louis and put them on the end of this video. Bye-bye, boys and girls. This is my first time to the arch. If you've never been here, I did not realize how huge it is. The river in the background is the Mississippi River. Let me go up. If you look at the top there, you can see some windows. It's hard to see when you're going into the sun here. Back down the other side. See the people around there. It is huge.